everyone, welcome to a new video. Today we are going to work with the Masters game. Bogoljubov is playing as white here. Unfortunately, I don't have the name of the player as black here, but you will see that it's a very interesting attack game, and that's why I brought it here to analyze it. So let's focus on the game. We have e4 and then e6 and then d4, d5. This is a French. So knight c3, knight f6. We have a classical system here. Bishop e7 and then e5, knight f d7. And here we could say that the main line should be bishop takes e7, but we also have this interesting line h4, and that's what Bogoljubov plays here. White is sacrificing a pawn here, but you will see that there is a very good compensation because white pieces will develop very quickly, as black will have some problems to develop the pieces here in the queen side, and also white will have some more space in the center. So it's a very interesting and dynamic position after the sacrifice. Knight h3, after queen e7, then white plays queen g4, attacking and creating problems here in the king side. In the game, black plays g6, but let me show you what could happen after a move, after a logical move like castling. Then white could play this interesting move, knight g5, creating some threats here on h7. And after a move like h6, then white would have a very strong move. White could play here rook takes h6, destroying the pawn structure in the castling, and after pawn takes rook, discover check and mate. So in this position after queen g4, castling is not really a very good idea because the attack will be very strong. So black just plays g6 in the game, and Bogoljubov decides to bring the knight to the center, knight f4. Then we have a6 because there are some annoying moves with the knight here to b5. So black plays a6 and white just castles. c5, fighting against these central pawns. And here white plays queen g3. And this is an interesting move. There is some trick behind this idea, because for example, if black plays here a normal move, normal development move here like knight c6, then there is some interesting sacrifice here in the center. Notice that the queen is going to control here in some way, because after pawn takes, knight takes, the knight is attacking the queen, is also attacking c7, so the queen has to go to d8, and then we have this idea, e6, clearing the way for the queen, and then white is attacking the knight, white is attacking or threatening knight c7, so this is very good for white. So that's the idea of this queen g3, and after that move black plays knight b6, protecting and avoiding the sacrifice in the center. White takes, queen takes, and now bishop d3. And again there are some threats here, because there could be some idea here with knight takes g6, and remember there is a pin here on the h file, the rook is hanging, and that's why in this position black plays queen f8 to protect black rook. And here this is one of my favorite moments of this game. I would like you to try to find the next move. Remember, white has a pawn down here, but they're trying to create some problems for black, and they have the pieces very active. So how do we get advantage of that and continue creating problems for black pieces? Well, a good way to do that is to try to open some lines, because right now black has a more or less solid position here, and they pretend to continue developing the knight and the bishop. So the move white plays here is this one, bishop e4. The idea is that there will be probably some sacrifice here on d5 very soon, opening lines. And also something we didn't mention before is that there are many weaknesses in dark squares. Notice that black doesn't have dark squares bishop, and there are many dark squares unprotected. So there's no pawn controlling these ones or these ones over here. So black really would need a bishop to protect those squares, and they don't have it. So the weakness of dark squares and the development problems and the king in the center is a very good compensation for the piece white is sacrificing here on e4 or probably here on d5. So that's why this move bishop e4 is very strong, it's very interesting, and I really like that move. Black accepts the sacrifice on e4, and then the knight comes. Now the file is open, and now the knight is coming over these squares. Knight d7, queen c3, queen e7, knight f6 check, and in this position black trades on f6, but I want to show you what could happen after a move like king f8. Then white could play knight takes h7. The king has to go to g7, and then we have a fantastic move here, knight h5, bringing the knight to the attack, also opening lines after the pawn takes. That's what could happen, pawn takes, and then queen g3, and after king h6, then we have mate in 2, or probably in 3, because black could also block. So rook takes and rook h1. After queen h4, then rook takes h4. So in this position king f8 doesn't work. So we are going to focus on the line of the game. Knight takes knight and pawn takes knight. The queen has to go to f8, there's no choice here. And of course, how do we continue improving the queen in this position and creating threats? Now we are threatening here and threatening here. Black has to play knight d7, and this is another important moment of this game. How do you continue as white in this position? Well, something important here is that black has all the pieces in the first rank. Only the knight here is on d7. Actually, the knight is probably the only good piece black has. It's a very defensive piece, but it's probably the one which is holding the position here. Notice that the knight is controlling some squares around and also blocking the fire. So if we can get rid of the knight, the other pieces are not really doing anything, and the attack should be very strong. That's why the move Bogoljubov plays here is this beautiful one, knight d5. The idea is that if the pawn takes, then the file is open, and if the pawn doesn't take, then white could be playing something like let's say knight to b6, attacking the rook, also attacking d7, trying to trade the knight, and it should be winning for white. Something interesting here is that after something like queen c5, then white can just trade and then knight c7, and that will be mate in the next move. So after knight d5, black just has to take the knight. Of course, rook e1 now. Knight e5 is the only move, and then bishop e6. And this is the last important moment I want you to think and analyze in this game. This is very special. So white to move, how would you continue here? Okay, the logical move here is not going to work. This is a big mistake. The logical move, rook takes d5, threatening mate here on d7, is a big mistake, because then black can play this sort of move, queen h6 check, and after white blocks, for example, then black can castle, and then the king is safe and black has a bishop up, and it would be winning for black. So in this position, rook d5 is a big mistake. The right move is to play prophylactically, avoid this check, and then we continue with the attack. So something like king b1 is very strong. Avoiding this check. Notice that this queen cannot go away because there is mate here. So this position is lost for black now. Rook d8 is the move we have in the game, but after that then just rook takes pawn. Now it's very strong because rook takes, and after bishop takes the rook, then we have mate in 1, queen c8. So there are 3 important moments I want to highlight in this game. In the middle game we had this position with a pawn down, and we needed to create some to open some lines and create some problems, and then Bogoljubov finds this beautiful move, bishop e4, sacrificing the bishop and threatening another sacrifice here on d5. 6 moves later we had this position where white finds another beautiful sacrifice. White plays here knight d5, and the idea is to bring the knight to the attack, and after the black pawn takes, then there will be open lines against black king, and the attack will be extremely strong and very hard to stop. And finally, my third favorite moment for this game is when we have this position, and in the middle of the storm white makes a pause on the way, and they just play king b1, avoiding any threat and winning the game because this move will be unstoppable here. And I want to take advantage of this situation on the board to share some thoughts, because sometimes we are playing and we are creating so many good ideas and so many strong threats, and we think everything is fine, but something very important here is to think about your opponent's ideas, to think about what is our opponent threatening. So in a position like this, if we are thinking or we are considering to play rook takes d5, then we should not say rook takes d5, threatening queen d7, and everything is fine. We should say, okay, rook takes d5, we are threatening mate here on d7, but what can he play against that? How can he defend, or what can he create after we play this? And then we have possibilities to find an idea like queen h6 and castling, if we think in that way. Otherwise, we can miss some good points in our games. So that's the idea. Whenever you're playing, try to avoid to be too excited about your threats and your ideas, and always take a look or try to think at least for some seconds about what is your opponent trying to do or what is he planning to do. A good way to do that is that we need to ask us a question, and that question could be, how will he play against this move? If you get used to ask yourself about that, then you have good possibilities to find this idea of queen h6 and castling, and then you could play just prophylactically as Bogoljubov did in this game. So this is the video I wanted to show you today. This is the last video for this year and also the last video for this decade I record. So I hope you have enjoyed it. I want to wish the best for you, for our chess community in the next year, and that all your dreams and your goals come true, and that you can make a lot of progress in chess. By the way, if you want to do that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, maybe it's a good idea to do it. Well, I'm just kidding, but it will be fine for me. So that's it. Thank you for watching. All the best for you, and see you in the next year.